Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a 23-week update. So the last video I posted was a second trimester update from weeks 13 to 22. And technically I did do that video this week, but I figured I'd update you guys a little bit more because there were a few things that I forgot to talk about, believe it or not. I know that video was so long, but I figured I would do a 23-week update and then an update at 26 weeks once I'm in the clear, hopefully, and won't have to have any surgery for twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. So yeah, I'm just gonna jump into it, talk about what's been going on this week, talk about symptoms and cravings and things like that. So this week has been interesting because I've been by myself here in Anchorage, so that's been a little bit challenging, but it's also been fun as well because I've gotten to spend time by myself and with the Lord and praying and doing that sort of thing. So I feel like God has put me in a really unique season right now, kind of like in the desert, so to speak. So it's given me a lot of time to reflect and journal and spend time with Him. So cravings, I did want to talk about cravings because I didn't really touch on that in the last video. So in the beginning of my pregnancy, I was craving a lot of salty things, and I thought for sure like I was having boys because I was craving salty, but it's completely changed now that I'm in my second trimester and I'm like getting to the end of the second trimester because I'm craving so many sweets. It's unreal. I feel like I'm having sweets every night, so it's kind of bad. Like I'll wake up and I'll have a normal breakfast, a normal lunch, and then by the afternoon my sweet tooth starts to kick in, and you know, with the holidays coming up, there's lots of yummy treats out at the store. I would be baking if I was at home, but I'm not at home, so I'm buying treats and Halloween candy and that sort of thing. So I'm definitely snacking a little bit more on sweets than I normally do, especially ice cream. Ice cream is my absolute favorite dessert, and I like never have ice cream when I'm not pregnant. Now that I'm pregnant and I'm trying to up my calcium as it is, I'm like, well, that's a perfect excuse for ice cream. So yeah, I've definitely been having a lot of sweets. And then a new symptom came up that was really interesting, and it's only happened in the past few days. I noticed that at night when I'm sleeping, I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and when I wake up, like my knuckles feel, I don't know if it's tight or loose, but I think it's loose because they feel weird when I open and close them, like right on my knuckles. And I think it's because when you're pregnant, everything is, all of your joints are loosening up and, you know, stretching and preparing for this season. And even the joints in my fingers are like stretching. And so it feels so weird when I wake up in the middle of the night. It's not that my hand has fallen asleep or anything like that. It's literally just on my knuckles where it almost pops. It kind of reminds me of my friend growing up. She was double jointed and she used to do these weird things with her fingers. And I feel like my fingers do those movements. So that's what I'm talking about when I say like a weird knuckle feeling. So I noticed that, which was super strange. And I noticed the past 2 days that my hands are like, when I'm sleeping, swelling just a little bit. And I mentioned it at my appointment today. And the nurse said that it may just be because I'm not drinking enough water. So I'm trying to drink more water. It's super hard, but I'm doing the best that I can. But yeah. Anyways, I did have an appointment today. So I have weekly appointments now. I was doing 2 times a week, but because everything's been so stable, we decided to do 1 time a week. So today's appointment, they checked everything for TTTS. So when they do these checks, they check bladder, stomach, fluid levels, and blood flow through the umbilical cord, the heart, and the brain. And so at this appointment today, everything looked super good, and I'm so thankful for that. So normal fluid levels are between 2 and 8, and below 2 is concerning. Above 8 can be concerning, but it's not as concerning as below, because when you get below 2 centimeters, that's when the membrane starts to kind of shrink wrap the baby, so it wraps around them a little bit, almost like they're getting stuck to the side of the uterus with a saran wrap or whatever. So at today's appointment, baby's A fluid levels were about 9.4, and she's my recipient baby is what they call it. And so above 9, it's still okay, even though that's the above 8 mark. She has a lot of fluid, and that's just because of TTTS. And then baby B's fluid was actually 3.4, which is the best it's ever been. I've never seen it in the 3s. It's always been like 1.7 and below 2. Right when I left Denver, it was just above 2. So now her fluid is at 3.4 centimeters, which is so amazing. And she had a really big bladder, which is great, because in stage 2 of TTTS, donor baby usually has no stomach or bladder present on the ultrasound. It's shrunk that much. So it's really great that all of their stomachs, bladders, and fluid levels were normal. And then in addition to that, their blood flow was absolutely normal through the umbilical cord, the heart, and the brain. So those are all really good things. We got really good measurements today, and the babies were moving so much, which is also another great sign of health. And yeah, and so in addition to their scanning for TTTS today, they also did growth today, which I've been waiting so long to see how big they are. It feels like forever, but really it was just a month ago when they did their last growth scan. So baby A, are you guys ready for this? Baby A is in the 94th percentile. She's weighing at 1 pound, 12 ounces right now. So she is my big baby. And then baby B is in the 25th percentile. And although 25 and 94, that sounds really bad, when you're talking in grams, because baby B actually weighs 1 pound, 5 ounces, which is around 500 grams, and then baby A is around 800 grams. So when you're talking in grams, baby B is like over half, or I should say baby A is just over half as big as baby B. So it's actually not that bad. They're 25% difference in growth. So my doctor actually said that baby B was a lot bigger than he thought she was going to be, which is another great sign. However, their growth will probably change later down the line, and their growth will start to get a little bit bigger. But right now, for being at almost 24 weeks, it's really good, especially because of the TTTS and all of that. So we're super happy about the scans, how their measurements went, how their growth went, and how everything is moving along for these girls. So I'll have another appointment next week, just before 24 weeks, and then I'll have another appointment just before 26 weeks. And then 26 weeks is my cutoff where I cannot have TTTS, laser ablation surgery. And I did want to explain the laser ablation surgery and what that is. I am going to give a little disclaimer again. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just talking from my understanding of what I've learned from my doctors and from my own research. So if you have TTTS, please talk to your doctor, or look up the TTTS Foundation website and use that as a resource before you use me as a resource, because I'm just speaking from my understanding. Okay, so with laser ablation surgery, the first thing that is important about it is that I have an anterior placenta, which means my placenta is on the front of my stomach rather than like behind the baby's. So because the placenta is in the front, they would have had to go in with a laser. When I went to Denver, baby A was down here and baby B was here. So they can't go in through my uterus because there's baby there. They couldn't go in through this side because there's baby there. So they would have had to go in through my right side with a curved scope. So they would have had to go in so that they could see the placenta and laser off the major connections between the babies. So what they would have done is use the laser to first laser the big arteries or veins or whatever the connections may be that they can see, laser those first, and then they would have kind of made like a dotted line with the big connections, and then they would have lasered it all the way up so that all of the connections were stopped, because that's what's causing the TTTS, is the connection between the babies and the blood sharing that they're doing over the placenta. So that's what the laser ablation surgery does. And then once that surgery is done, they would know how much share of the placenta each baby would get. So the best case scenario is 50-50, but obviously they're not always going to be sharing the placenta equally, especially because of where my baby's cords, umbilical cords, inserted from the placenta. So it's possible they could have had a 60-40 share of the placenta, or 70-30. What would have been less ideal is an 80-20 share of the placenta, which could probably lead to me losing one of the babies, the baby B, who would have had the smaller share of the placenta. So yeah, that is what laser ablation surgery does. And the risk of the surgery is that, yes, you're going in there and you're disconnecting, I guess, the babies, but you're also poking a hole in their amniotic sac. So because of that, that causes a risk for rupture and preterm labor and delivery. So you want to avoid that as much as possible if you can, like in my case, how we're avoiding it, because the twins only have stage 1 or less than stage 1 at the moment. So yeah, that's what the laser ablation surgery is. Those are the risks. And so after 26 weeks, I won't be able to do that anymore because babies are too big. And especially considering how big my baby A is, that she's in the 94th percentile. So yeah, that is the gist of all of that information. I think I've pretty much explained everything that I wanted to talk about so far for week 23, and also for TTTS, just going a little bit more into detail, even though I almost explained it all in the last video. It was just so long. So that's pretty much it. I don't have any baby items to share with you because, as I've mentioned before, most of our stuff is at home and I'm waiting for Jordan to bring those back. So when he gets here, I'll be able to share some of those items that we have, and later down the line do a nursery tour and things like that. So if you have any requests for videos, go ahead and leave those down in the comments below. The next video will probably be an update at 26 weeks, so in like 2-ish weeks. So I think I'll start doing videos every 2 weeks so that there's a little bit more to talk about, because I'm not really doing much here in Anchorage. I'm just kind of crafting and reading, sitting around, going to stores, eating a lot. So not too much to update you guys on. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I said follow last time, which I giggled at, but subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.